in Australia, the Irish lapsed Catholics will be very dismissive of the faith. And why would you convert into that? This is insane. What are you doing? These Philly boys are so happy that someone's going to mass. And so they're not going to confession. They're, having all the fun of a degenerate lifestyle, but then we'll be like, yo, pray for me. St. Christopher, I got his thing around my neck right now. And I think that's so beautiful.
Welcome to The Crunch, the only podcast recording live from the ocean. It's your boy, Ethan.
You can really tell how live it is from how you said that.
I know.
Because if it wasn't live, you would not have done. You would have done it again.
Yeah,
I
would have done it again.
James,
welcome to the show.
We're blessed to be joined today on our very normal and very Orthodox Catholic podcast with the eminent Australian comedian James Donald Forbes Mccann. Of
Thank
the
you.
Catamaran clan fame.
Happy
welcome.
to bring an unorthodox Catholic on the pod. I think of myself as Origin, in the faith happily now, but after I die, ruthlessly savaged for having said the wrong things.
I like to think of myself as Origin. I mutilate myself and
Did he self-mutilate?
Yeah, that's the rumor. That's the rumor is that
in what way?
His pair of stuffed testicles on the wall were not kangaroos.
Did he cut off his own situation?
Can I ask you that question?
Hold on. No, go for it.
The reason why I made that joke is not because I'm vulgar. I'm a very Orthodox and very family-friendly Catholic podcaster.
Let's all be clear here.
But
I assume it's a reference to that I went on the Matt Fradd podcast and he's got the testicles on the wall. Yes.
Yeah, he just casually mentioned the kangaroo testicles, and then one of our people in our Discord, bit.ly/crunch Discord, she says, "Oh yeah, I have a kangaroo testicle can opener." And I was like, what?
You'd be shocked at how many people own kangaroo testicle devices of some kind or another in my
devices.
Yes, if you require a ball bearing for the skateboard, you just reach over to a baby kangaroo, get that testicle. No, what are you going to do? They're everywhere, and you have to kill them.
They grow on trees down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like fresh apples, just pluck them.
Do you eat them?
Oh yes, it's the oysters of the land. I call them.
Yeah, because here they call them Rocky Mountain oysters when you eat the boiled
I have heard that.
But
I knew I was
in
cribbing
Australia, what is it? The Tasmanian
They call them bush oysters, I guess.
Bush oysters.
It's just something we sell to the Chinese. The Chinese come through and they go, look, a testicle.
Something to spice up their dog. Yeah.
And the rest of the kangaroo makes a beautiful sausage, but we haven't gotten to the point of using the...
Yeah.
It's also nice for the male kangaroo, I think, to have something that can be referenced. Because also, so often it's the pouch and the mama, and now finally the boys are back in town. But
the male kangaroo has the video.
That's true. That is
fight.
It's funny
what I'm thinking of.
Jack.
Yeah.
We're not
Kangaroo
really
Jack,
sure what's
Austin.
going international.
Yeah.
What becomes a viral video from our country. I didn't know it had been Guy fighting a row, which is just like a dumb thing to do, but something anyone could do in Australia.
I did have a question for you about things that go viral from your nation. Now that you've been in America for a few weeks, would you say that Steve Irwin was your George Floyd?
Ethan, I told you.
No, George Floyd never lost a fight. So that's what I would say. Man, that was a better comeback than I thought it was going to be. No,
he did lose that one fight against that guy's knee pretty rapidly.
Ethan, you can't, Ethan. We just had the conversation about being Orthodox and family friendly.
I just want to say James is
Steve
thinking
Irwin was a good family man. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Floyd Mayweather. Sorry, I was thinking of Floyd Mayweather. Hold on, who did you say? Who did you say again?
Earlier,
George Floyd.
Oh, oh no! Oh, then they good. No, that's why no one spontaneously laughed at what I'd said because I was speaking about the wrong black guy.
I just meant more so like were there riots in the street? Were people burning down?
No, we've just entered into a fairly conventional. First of all, we don't have Macy's. Secondly, it was a fairly conventional period of mourning. We got David Jones. We got Maya.
I heard about David Jones, the bowler. Is that what he did?
No. I don't even. We got Daniel Johns, who was in. No, hold on. I think I know who you're talking about. Back the man who got hit in the head, Phil Walsh. That's a weird. Maybe not that one. It's almost like we're in a different country. All the references are falling apart.
Isn't that crazy?
How was Steve Irwin like George Floyd? Let me think. Hold on.
It was funny on the episode of Pints that I was listening to hear you and Matt, who I guess Matt is from Adelaide too. I did not know that.
Just outside, small town.
Okay. You guys were just like talking about like Australian football people. And I was like, man, you guys, this is great. It's not often we get to hear Matt talk about his homeland. And it was It was funny to hear you guys.
Look, he's having success in the big country, and so I will try and limit the amount of time I spent talking about Eddie Betts and whether or not he was maltreated on a postseason camp.
You could be making this up. You could be.
These are real. I'm promising these are real names. But man, it's hard because I'm at these house parties sometimes now. And people go, "Let's watch the NFL highlights," and they'll be like, "Look at this, the most brutal tackles," and you go, "This is nothing. This is." Small potatoes compared
we need to be talking about how it's so tragic that Rory Sloan ruptured his ACL in the round 5 victory over Richmond. That's so tragic.
Wait. Oh, not recently. Not recently. Oh my! Don't do that.
You just ruined his day.
Don't. I had to Google that.
He didn't. My fantasy league.
No, not my. Well, my fantasy player. No, he's safe. I'm looking up the news now.
Fine.
Listen,
this was like 2 years ago.
Oh, I'll give you the skinny on Rory Stone. Rory Stone plays for the Adelaide Crows. He's a lifetime Adelaide Crows player. He really we call him an inside midfielder. He throws himself on the ball. So there'll be like a big rabble of people, and he's the first one in the pile to just handball it out and get it to someone who can run. And as a result, because he's really good at it, Rory Sloan gets injured a lot. And his body's like a bag of sand at this point. And so like there's this big discussion as a Crows fan. It's like, should Rory Sloan... Like, he's slow. He's not playing the full game. But he's working really hard on his recovery, and we love him. Yeah. And he was good to us. He stayed. He could have left. Everyone was leaving Adelaide because of that camp where they were tortured. And also the son murdered the coach. Anyway, but Rory Sloan stayed, and we've stuck by him, and we've allowed him to play another year. Presumably at a much reduced salary. But if Rory Sloan does his ACL now, more than anything, I feel bad for Rory Sloan, who again is the walking wounded out there. He's such a good, makes a lot of his story about. He had a child who was born, who died very shortly after being born, and the whole city of Adelaide, how we mourned together in community with Rory and sweet Belinda, his wife. Excuse me, I've become too passionate about.
No, it's good.
The Sloan family.
We've clearly touched on something that's of interest to you.
It's important. God. The audience likes to hear when our guests are passionate about something, and so if you're passionate about Australian rules football and the Adelaide Crows, then please.
I would like as one of my things I'm trying to do in America. I would like to make the Adelaide Crows America's team. You know?
I mean, if someone asked me point blank, who's your favorite AFL team? I'm saying the Crows because they're the only one I'm familiar with. So you've done a great. I mean, already.
The Roos. I'm sure there's a Roos team.
There was a Roos. Fun story about the Adelaide Crows and the Roos. The best ever Roos player was he was like Wayne Carey, incredible goal kicker. Had sex with his captain's wife in a toilet at a party. The team kicked him out, and the one team happy to have him come and play for a season, the Adelaide Crows. So if you then watch the game where Wayne Carey started playing for the Crows. So yes, toilet, restroom. You would say restroom.
Right.
It wasn't actually in the bowl of the ceramic
a little too
convenience.
Specific in there. Yeah. Difficult, not a lot of room.
Forgive me. But there are great highlights from that game when the man who Wayne Carey has had sex with his wife, and he's like charging into him, and the commentators are getting all around it.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
You don't have that. You don't have that in American sports. You don't have that level of blood feud. You know, you'll have guys that don't like each other. You know, you'll have Draymond Green whacking a guy that and getting suspended for 25 games, but he's just a menace. Like he just kicks and hits everybody. No, we don't have like you stole my girl.
He stole my woman.
Like I think for shame.
Wayne Carey stole your wife.
We need more kayfabe in American football.
No, we definitely. You've got plenty of heels. I would say you need more good boys. I've been following your NFL football with great interest. I've been following the Steelers ahead of moving to Steubenville, and it seems like every team has a wide receiver who has real personality problems. and like you just tolerate this. But like, because that's what he's good at. He's so fast. He's out on his own. It's an incredible skill set. And like everyone, like the tight end just has to keep his head down and be a team man. But a wide receiver can just do as many small dances as he wants during a game. So many little dances. And
the further out you get from the center in football, the closer it gets to hockey, where you can just fight at any time. You know, like these guys.
Quarterback, not at all. Zero violence to the quarterback.
Do not touch this man. But then you get out here, the refs aren't even paying attention, and they're knocking into each other. It's great.
That's a very good stand-up comedy premise, I believe.
Thank you. Please take
You're welcome. I don't know enough about the sport here to know if that's true, but it sounds like a quality.
I did see.
That's the thing, is that an outsider's perspective of football could play really well, because to the people who know it and the people who don't, you get.
Right,
you're going to hit everybody, even if they don't
from the wives,
as I'm just
and the discord from the husbands. You know,
boy, it'd be nice to get the wives. I mean, you may find this as a conservative Catholic podcast, but do you find that overwhelmingly your audience is young men?
Actually,
no.
We have.
Would you get the ladies?
We have a pretty evenly split, like 50-50 men and women, at least.
Whoa.
And for the most part, beginning it was Catholic women.
We had a lot of moms.
You had all that sweet eye candy.
Initially, yes.
I think it was because we were just sweet young guys, and like, who wants sweet young college guys more than college-aged
old women?
And old women who have college-aged kids, right? Like that was the demo.
On the website for young college men, you know, it's always like moms in your area looking for you. But I like to think that on the Catholic mummy blogger websites, maybe there are sweet young college boys in your area looking for.
Good nubile podcaster, ready for you. Yeah, I actually met my wife because of the podcast. If you didn't know, that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, she listened to the show. She saw our business cards because we went to Seek back in 2017, and we ordered 10,000 business cards, which we got rid of maybe 500.
That's so hopeful. Yeah,
it was very hopeful. But we would throw them over balconies, and my wife saw this business card. Years later, started listening to the show, and then friended me on Facebook. And I was like, "That's an attractive woman. I will add her on Facebook and then start to message her to give her my number." And then we ended up dating and getting married. So,
but I want to go back to your comedy, because that's what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, is that what we're talking about today?
No, well, I wanted to talk about your jokes, because I think your comedy is very accessible. Let me explain. You said to me before, or on the podcast a while back, that like, wives usually don't like your comedy. You said this.
Well, I'll say that certainly when my podcast, the James Donald Forbes Mccann Catamaran Plan, out now, all digital platforms, James Donald Forbes Mccann Catamaran Plan, and I said this before and I'll say it now. When I came on the Crunch the first time, the boost I had to my listenership was incredible. And there are now there's like a whole seminary in Houston that listens to the podcast. I have to think, because of the work you did. But what would happen... I was at a Christmas party and a woman did come up to me and say, my husband on a drive from Toowoomba, we're looking at 15-hour drive. He made her listen to 30 episodes of the podcast. And that she found that excessive. So I would say the super fans would tend to be
sure. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. So because I was like, that's not true, because my wife did watch the Instagram reel of the Jungkook 7 bit that you did. She did not like that. She was like, this is too much. I can't handle all of this reference to fornication. But she watched the Fool Me Once, and she brings it up all the time. She thinks it's so funny. And
that is a joke for women, I will say.
I'm a veritable Yamcha of comedy, you know? Not everything's for everybody. The feet are coming around on a tray. Don't be eating the feet. But we've got something that looks more like a dumpling. It's, it's like whenever you're not I try not to be a brand.
No,
like I would like to be. It would be so nice to be a brand. It would be so nice to surrender the vagaries of the personhood to just being one easily marketable thing. But I find that very difficult. And yes, as a result, I think I do manage. I'll put it this way: both my follow rate and my unfollow rate on Instagram are high. Like it looks like it's just sitting steady. It's huge numbers of people leaving.
Oh wow! Okay,
that's not good.
No, but the other, slightly higher numbers gaining. So overall, it looks like we're doing okay.
You need to do another vaccine joke to set you over the top, because that's my wife's favorite bit of yours. She references it all the time, and it's not even the punchline about Anne Frank, whatever. It's just when you say fine. She says fine like that all the time.
If I need to go on more podcasts where people tell me their wives enjoy my comedy, this is very good for the spirit. Yeah, I'm going to inform my wife to like my comedy more.
Well, I mean, given that the gigs that you may or may not have, one might need to have a bit of a raising of spirits on this particular podcast.
Oh man, I mean, it's just. I told you about if you want to know about the comedy, I spent the first week I came to America. I went to Austin.
I did want to ask you about
Rogan's
this.
Club.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was magical.
Did you? I'm gonna have a lot of questions. I'm a relative, not a comedy nerd, but I follow quite a bit of the things.
You'll know who Adam Egert is then.
I know who Adam Egert is. You said that you were on Kill Tony. You said you were on Kill Tony, and Matt Fradd just breezed by it like it was nothing, and that just drove me insane. I was like, why don't you ask him about Kill Tony? I'm glad that we can talk about it now. We can talk about Adam Egert first. Okay. So you met Adam Egert.
I just want to talk about.
Please do.
I mean, Norm Macdonald's sidekick on the Norm Macdonald show, and not a comedian, just a guy who was booking gigs at a comedy room in LA.
Who Chevy Chase was incredibly mean to for no reason on that show, by the way.
I didn't remember that, but I'm going to go back and look at that. I just remember the sneezing.
He was so mean for no reason. Anyway, I was pissed off about that because I was like,
cruel. I'll side with Adam because I have no chance of meeting Chevy Chase in the near future, but I would have a word to Chevy Chase if I ever saw him in the flesh. Man, that's hurt me. You've said that. I'm going to go back and watch that. Adam Egert is such a lovely guy, and it was just I was more starstruck by that than anyone I've ever met. Yeah. Oh, easily.
Did you meet Joe when you were at the club?
He was on a holiday, so everyone was like Joe, and I heard stories about Joe.
You should take over his podcast.
Yes, I wonder if that would be helpful for the old career. Is getting on Joe. How's his podcast doing? Yeah. Do we know if Saint Rogi's doing well?
Yeah.
I wish him well with it.
You've been on the Matt and Shane Secret podcast.
Lovely boys.
Has that not done anything for you? I feel like that's one of the biggest.
I tell you, it's been about as big a bump as the Crunch. I don't know what it is you said.
As big as Shane Gillis. You heard it here first.
We didn't actually talk about my podcast on his podcast, but you gave this big long. You did this whole thing about how everyone had to go back to the start and listen all the way through, and it was this beautiful journey. And people really listened to you, and they did it. And I felt very blessed.
That's good.
I felt really happy with that.
Yeah.
These people are all, by the way, Matt and Shane. Oh, yes, go on. Sorry.
No, I do really want to ask you about your process behind the podcast because I was listening. I started listening again. And while I do think going back to the beginning is good, you can jump right in and listen. It's very funny. If you're you said on the pod, we'll talk about Matt and Shane in a second. You said on the Matt Fradd show that I don't write stand up and I it takes so long for me to get a minute out, but the podcast is 30 minutes and this is something that I would sit through at a club and crack up to. You ever just want to crack up?
It's incredible how much you can get away with on a podcast that in a room people.
Boy, don't we know it.
Yeah.
The standard of holding someone's attention while they're alone in their kitchen doing the dishes with headphones on or at the gym working out.
That's fair.
Is a world away from 200 strangers, all slightly
they've
drunk.
gone out of their way to click on you and listen to you, as opposed to you are just there and they're there at the club. Yeah. It's totally.
No, I'm a very slow writer. I used to be a much faster writer. And sometimes a half hour will come at a time, and that's quite nice. But since I've been to America, I look through my phone notes. I'm really trying to figure out something I can do in America that's a new thing that I've noticed. And all I have is we're not really getting out and seeing the country. We're snowed in Steubenville, watching the national news every night where they keep telling me that I'm probably going to die. National news is brutal in this country.
Yeah, you got to watch. You need to get can you pirate an HBO show? Maybe that might be a better use of your time.
Well, when I was on the Pints with Aquinas, I was talking about shows we liked, and I said the OA, which is my favorite show, and I just want to tell everybody how good the OA is. And I was asked are there sex scenes in that? And I was like, no, I don't think there's a lot of sex in that. And someone said, there's a lot of sex. And I thought about it. I thought, actually, in the first episode, I think
now that I think
there
about
is
it,
a lot of
there
sex.
is a lot of-
Is that the show where there's a school shooter and they all surround him and they start doing a dance to stop them?
Yes.
I've seen that clip. That's all I know about the show. Ludicrous.
That's insane.
It's a great. Yes,
really
they all
funny.
do a dance.
Out of
We
context-
release that clip right now, or we get copyright.
Out of context, it's just like a bunch of guys huddled under like lunch tables and they're all looking at each other. They make eye contact and you think that they're going to get up and like tackle the shooter, but instead they stand up and they just start going like this. And like the lunch lady joins in. It's really funny if you don't know what's going on. And I don't. And I
think that's happened this last week, that's gone out of context and people go, this is like because when
What
people
is
go,
this?
what's the show about? And you go, oh, it's a show about people who do a dance at a school shooter, which is technically in the end what the show is sort of like, that's what happens. But this is why the show was cancelled. It's very hard. You only
really?
have a brief second. Well, I believe because the once you started watching, the watch through rate was very high, but the ability to convert people to it was difficult because they go, "What's it about?" And you go, there's a blind girl and she gathers teenagers, and they learn dances, and it's like you're no chance. You're much better going. He's a criminal and he's baking bread. I don't know. That's my idea for. Sorry, that's off the top of the head. My new idea for a show. People keep talking to me about this Alex Plato and his incredible bread. I'm yet to have his bread. Every other bread I'm having in America
He was my philosophy professor in college, so I haven't had his bread, but I've heard his lectures, and they're just as good. But
I look forward to it.
Matt and Shane.
Yeah.
Oh,
What were you going to say
lovely
about Matt and Shane? You were going to say something.
Well, they're both like products of the Catholic
Are they
school
really?
system and milieu, and they're both lapsed. And all these Philadelphia men, like I've met men from Philadelphia from the first time. Or, I mean, Shane's from Mechanicsburg, which is outside of the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg. But all of these, and it's so, even with these lapsed Catholics, like in Australia, the Irish lapsed Catholics will be very, like dismissive of the faith. And like, why would you convert into that? This is insane. What are you doing? These Philly boys are so happy that someone's going to mass. And so like, they're not going to confession. They're, having all the fun of a degenerate lifestyle, but then we'll be like, yo, pray for me. St. Christopher, I got his thing around my neck right now. And I think that's so beautiful because I think sometimes what's the point of the Catholic school system? No one who comes out of it is a Catholic, just about. Yeah. But then I see these otherwise secular men who have like a great fondness for the faith and are probably like one small thing away in their lives changing from like going back to mass. And I think, man, I think it's better to have these Catholic schools than nothing. That's my revised position, is that it is nice. It would be better if, okay, everyone's Catholic, everyone's going to mass. But to have cultural Catholics in the world is, it's better than nothing. I'd say that. And I'm really enjoying it to meet them.
Oh, yeah. Pittsburgh is similar. It's the kids are like, yeah, I believe in God and Jesus. It's like, hi, buddy, one quick thing that Jesus is God. You got to get that straight. But yeah, no, awesome. That's great.
It doesn't really help when Protestants are going, what's the difference between Christianity and Catholicism, if they're getting that wrong. But there's a video. There was a lovely video of Ian Carmel, I think it was. I hope I'm saying that right. And Be and Ian with Jordan is the podcast. And he was a practicing homosex. And his father had given him a St. Christopher medal. And out of respect, he would always take off his St. Christopher medal before presumably getting plowed by another dude. And the clip on the show is of the woman who's his co-host going, so I bought you from the Vatican a St. Christopher medal. And he's weeping over receiving the St. Christopher medal. And it's like, we're all sinners. We're all fallen. How beautiful is it that this man is having that reaction, obviously through feelings of his father and I mean, if there ever was to be a game of medallion, there's something about St. Christopher. I mean, it is carrying another man, so maybe you'd want to. That would be too close. You would definitely want that taken off at the time. Anyway, I don't want to. I sometimes get too close to disrepute. I was really touched that he cared that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I don't feel that strongly about any Catholic medals that I've picked up, and I'm glad that he gets that. I'm glad that we're in the world doing things like that. And anyway, maybe watch the clip. It's so I became very emotional.
This is like there's a tendency in like in Catholics to think of all sinners of a certain category as the same. So like every fornicator acts this way, every sodomite acts this way, we'll say, to use the very politically incorrect term.
Well, and then also when
But,
people
like,
are sort of sorry, go on.
Yeah, but I think this is like controversially, this might be the attitude that Fiducia Supplicans was trying to address.
Whoa.
Like, there are people who want to receive graces from the church and recognize in themselves that they're not there, but they want something that the church has. And the document, however well it intentioned and poorly it did this, is like, yes, you should bless them. You should bless a person if they come, but don't try to gay marry them. It's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
If only they had done it a little better, more politically. Yeah. Anyway,
you boys haven't gotten the gay blessing live on the pod yet, have you?
No, but there's still time.
I immediately texted Ethan and I in our little text messages. We had so much fun with that. Like, hey, bro, I heard the Vatican just said you can get blessed. Just back and
it's
forth,
nice. It's isn't it a beautiful expression with all the footnotes? There's a woman named Dasha who's on the Red Scare podcast who started going to Mass.
Big fan of Dasha.
Right, and so she speaks really eloquently about this, about how she, people have gone, are you going to the Mass ironically? And she's gone like, I don't think it's bad to go to the Mass. Like, compared to not going to the Mass, it's better to go to the Mass ironically, and at least you're there. And if it's a real thing, its real effect will work on you. Now, obviously, there comes a point where like irony and aesthetics are insufficient to live out what is like a deeply difficult ethic on every front. Not like we obsess about the sexual, but holy dooly, it's very hard. And if it was a posture, you can't keep going with it. People.
I also think that Dasha is a sedevacantist too, which complicates things.
If I ever meet her, I'll happily have a firm word about that. And
no, that'd be good.
I mean, maybe
she says things. She has the right spirit about a lot of stuff. Like, because people will like call her a whore on Twitter because that's just what people online do. Yeah. And she says, well, Catholicism is the only religion where you can be a whore because I'm forgiven every single time I go to confession. And it's like, that's not how 99% of Catholics would say it, but you're correct in what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Christ came for you. The sacraments are for you. You can be forgiven, It's like, but people like to go, well, you have to have a firm amendment. Shut up. This is a woman who's trying, at least in a very small way. So like, how about we not?
I believe
mighty,
we have it written down somewhere that partial contrition is sufficient to make a confession.
Is that true, Patrick?
Yeah. So the point of confession is that you're not going to get perfect contrition. Like, the asterisk is actually on the confessing your sins to God. It's like, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and confess your sins to God, but you need to be sorry only because you have saddened your Creator, not because you're afraid of hell, not because you desire heaven, not because of any this, that, or the other thing. Because
you want to repair your relationship with God.
And that is impossible without grace, like that. And so you need confession.
Hold on, this was a thought that I was trying to get out on another podcast and didn't get all the way there because maybe it is too weird. But there is, on the conventional act of contrition, we also do accept as a part of that, like, because I am afraid of the fire of hell, but also because I have like, that hell is a merciful, like, there is nothing that God does which is not merciful. And that includes the creation of hell. And that having hell and being able to be afraid of hell is a tool by which we can love God better, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there is a generosity in having hell in that way. And anyway, I'm struck. I really like, I don't know if I talked about this last time. I like the thought of there being a hell. I'm not one of these. I don't stay up worrying about hell. If I woke up in hell, this is like, I expressed this thought to a Catholic and he was like, yeah, that's sort of, I think he was being careful with how he worded it in hindsight, but he made me think what I was expressing was bona fide normal Catholic orthodoxy. But like, if I woke up in hell, I'd be jazzed for like a minute or two because, like, oh, there was a moral order to the universe. I obviously didn't live up to it for whatever reason. But look at that. It was there all. Isn't that neat? And also, like, what? I'm not just obliviated. I don't just have consciousness cease. Oh, I have torture forever and separate, but my consciousness continues. These are two big pluses. If you wake up in hell. And then there's, the negativity and the, all the other stuff.
And the firebrands on your nipples and what all.
Yeah, forever.
Brutal.
Forever. The first meditation, Introduction to the Devout Life, is about the pains of hell. Like that, and in Ignatius' exercises, like they both, a lot of spiritual tradition in the church is centered around like the foundation has to be, because it's the most earthly thing about the afterlife, is like, what if this anxiety, depression, desolation you felt was all of the time? And you can say it to a person, and they'd be like, wow, yeah, good point. That sucks. And you can kind of use that as a launching off point into, repentance and purgation of the things that would cause you to go there. And yeah, I think post in the part of the post-conciliar church, post-Vatican II church has been like kind of a hangover of this optimism in the 1960s, and part of that has been like, we don't want to talk about hell because it makes us remember World War II and World War I. And we don't want to think about that.
I've been going and doing adoration, because there's 24/7 adoration in Steubenville, which is like so nice and makes me feel quite guilty about not having like given my time to help set something like that up in Adelaide. It's so good. But they've got books there, and they've got Benedict's Life of Jesus. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Jesus of
and
Nazareth,
Jesus of Nazareth. And I'm wearing a hat, and it was too difficult to get it all the way off with my headphones. But I did. I want the record to show that I tried to lift the hat a little bit. And he writes about what is the kingdom of God. And that like earlier understandings of the kingdom of God were like, Christ is in himself the kingdom, and we enter into him. And then later understandings might have been we become the kingdom of God, and he enters into us. And then later, but now it's just like, shouldn't the church sort of be nice to people? Like, shouldn't we have a nice world that we're all in together? Which is sort of how I had read it before then, but like that the church is not just to like peddle I'm sure this will resonate. I don't think you'll have any listeners who'll kick back on this, but like, it's not just to peddle like a woke orthodoxy of like flim flam, don't we seem like nice people? It's to do, the kingdom of God is like 7 or 8 really challenging things to understand about self-divinization and the imminent, the eschaton. And it's like, I don't know. I'm very emotional reading it, because a friend lent me this book years ago, and my friend Jack, who you came on the Catecast with, and I lost it. And he loves this book, and I miss him so much, and he's so informed by Benedict that when I read it, it's like, it's a bit like talking to my friend Jack, but he's because these are all the things he's been trying to explain to me. But, usually we're drunk or we're having an argument or something is going on, and just to get it direct is really nice, that like Benedict lives in my friend who's just done nothing but read his work. And so then in reading Benedict's work, I get to experience my friend.
So good.
It's so good.
So good.
It's and I don't know why I thought it was boring. I think just because I didn't understand it and I wasn't enculturated enough. And this is another, like, about those, Dasha and whatever ironic people with ironic reasons for coming to Mass, all the rhythm of the liturgical life and the imagery and like being around it opens it up intellectually when you come around to it later. I read Humanae Vitae 6 years ago when I realized that we'd be having an uncomfortable amount of children, God willing. I didn't understand a lick of it. It didn't. I didn't get. And I reread it in the Mark's bookshop, and just like, it would be excessive to say that I stood there crying, but I was on the precipice of crying. It's just a beautiful document. I felt like it was all readily understandable, having done very little reading since having children, because it's not easy, and just waves of how like grateful I am that this document existed and that I could understand it, and that the increase in my understanding just comes from, well, like watching men mumble about in Latin and walk left to right with some smells and bells. It really works.
Yeah, it really
or
does.
like looking at crosses, or like looking,
Just
I
opening
trust in
yourself to
you
grace.
with the Domino's
That's all that
pizza
it is.
coming out the wound. It's
The French flag.
it's so, well, the Poles would be furious if they heard that. It's like it's exclusively white and red. There's no blue getting into the wound.
There's no blue. Oh man.
Sorry, that was I didn't mean to pop off. It was a real weird life altering event.
Yeah, I think there's just talking about the faith. Ironically, we've kind of said this. It's like my fear is that with the rise of sort of not alt-right, but like there is a very much a trend now of it's kind of a response to the woke thing, where now it's much more cool and based to be a white European man than it was 10 years ago, all of a sudden, because now they have this cool music that they play with edits on Instagram of even there was one about Australia that I saw the other day. It's like, this is what happens when you leave white people on an island for 200 years. And honestly, kind of got me inspired. I was like, maybe we can.
That was sent to me. That was sent to me. I won't say who. I don't want to bring them into disrepute. But a notable person did send that to me. No, it wasn't Thursday.
It wasn't.
No. But I'm so glad that Little Dark Age became like the champion of that movement as a song. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that was, I think, the first meme that I saw was
Can you sing it for me?
You know that song? Standing in the dark, I know what's inside. And then it goes, my stereo. You know this song? My Little Dark Age.
I don't think I've heard it.
Oh,
a few more lines, and then I think I'll get it.
It's
keep
like
going, yeah.
It's a late career MGMT song that became the like go-to reel making, TikTok making.
Yes.
Like they'll play the sad bit of the song, and they'll just be playing like that. It's like modernist churches and like thick white paint on the middle of the walls and gay masses and stuff like that. And then the cool bit of the song starts with a bass guitar, and it's like Joan of Arc with a sword and like. Maltese Mary with tears coming down and blood ripping into her chest. Sorry, I'm going to wake up my kids.
It's great. Well, this is the whole point.
They
this is the whole point is that I'm worried.
And then
go ahead, Patrick.
And it's Joan of Arc. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I missed it. I think you're on a delay.
I was making a joke about how people call Joan of Arc trans. I think they get her confused with Mulan. She
put on the boys' clothes so she wouldn't get raped.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. They thought that she got dressed up in men's clothes so that she could join the army. And I was like, no, you're thinking of Mulan.
Yeah.
You're thinking of the Disney movie. Joan of Arc did put on men's clothes, but it was for a different reason.
She wanted trousers so that it was harder in prison for her to be defiled rather than in an open skirt. Mulan, man, I've gotten into this at parties in a very angry way. Like when people go like Mulan is like a trans icon or something, it's like the reason Mulan's a good story is because she's a world away from being a trans icon. She wants to be a woman. It is an act of suffering to take on. It's like an unnatural, difficult thing that she does out of love. If it was a story of a little girl who always wanted to be a boy soldier running around in a field and she gets the opportunity, there's no tragic element. She's just like some dumb yahoo who likes to kill Mongols and gets a handshake from the emperor. The suffering is in the abnegation of femininity. Excuse me.
No,
you're absolutely right.
I've struggled to convey that point at bars previously, and it had to.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of emotions at the moment. We're all locked up in our house. It's snow everywhere. We don't have a car. I'm waiting on my social security number. I'm in purgatory. I have a
Did you not get the Camry? The Camry didn't come through?
I have a car. I can't register it. I now realize until I get an Ohio driver's license, which I can't have until I have
you have a social security
number, and I have to wait a week for that. But even then, to go and get the license, I have to go to a town 30 minutes drive away, and there is no public transport in Jefferson County other than like one bus that takes you to the Walmart. Excuse me.
Yeah. That's frustrating. It's hard even to like move states. I moved from Kansas to Oklahoma a few years ago, and I had to wait for 4 hours to get a new driver's license, despite being an American citizen who lives here. It was crazy.
It was born
I
in this
couldn't go
country.
to the I couldn't go to the small local tag and title place to get it because you're coming from out of state, so you got to go to the big one
go to the
off the
depot.
highway. You got to go to the depot, and I had to get there at 6:30 in the morning, and there were already 40 people in line in front of me that presumably had been there in the rain for hours. And it's just, man.
What I like, though, is that it's so badly regulated. Like, you have regulation as a country, and you don't care. Like, the level of being allowed to speed, of driving an unregistered vehicle, of, like, cash. Like, I don't know why this is, except that potentially, like, you want to create a society that if you're an illegal alien, it's fairly easy to move through so you can keep these people employed, so they just don't follow the letter of the law. But as a result, no one has really worried that the laws make sense or that the regulation can be followed. It's the Kafkaesque thing of pushing up into what you just want. What do I do? How do I get money until I have a social security number? What do you want me to do for the next 2 weeks? What do you think a person's life looks like when you don't just do it in the office? And the ladies in the office were like, we're so sorry, sir. It's a terrible system. We're just following orders. And I was like, it's like a fucking Nuremberg trial or something happening here.
That was the funniest. I think this is on your list.
I took something from my old podcast. I did. That's the one thing I repeated.
So
I regret it now.
No,
I regret having said it.
The throwaway line in the podcast, I wouldn't have caught it. I thought it was so funny. You're exactly right. Also, the other thing, your American accent. This is why your comedy is so good. It's like you have your podcast is comedy. It's like you have these throwaway lines that it like takes you a second. It's like Arrested Development, the TV show. Have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
I have notably successful in its own time. Arrested Development.
Yes.
The OA of Fox comedy.
if you like, it's like if you blink, you miss it. Like you're like, wait a second. Oh, now I get it. Like a couple of seconds later, like you're laughing on top of the next joke, which for live comedy might not be a great strategy.
Yeah,
but you did your American accent off of the news, and you were like, what was the line you used?
Oh,
like,
my line, yeah. Jeffrey Epstein has been having sex parties with young girls. That's my American accent.
You watch American news, and that's what you get from it. You're like,
that's all you need to know. I can only
talk about school shootings and pedophiles because I watched it in my American accent.
Because the national
Donald
news
Trump appears to be unstoppable as he carries 50, whatever. Like, it's just a hard. I had this period where I was watching the federal news with my dad. You don't call it federal, what do you call it? National news with my dad every night, and like. You put it on, and just every night, it's like something. I guess they have to do something that's interesting to everybody, but I want to do a bit about, like you watch like the national news, and they go like, Senator Glenn Glenson from Virginia gave a beautiful speech today about the importance of curtailing gun rights or whatever. And then you watch like the local news, and it's like, man, a guy with a gun saved some people today. Good guy with a gun made a difference. It was sick. But like the story of like the guy who shoots a pedophile just before, that doesn't ever get elevated into the national news. No. All your cool stuff never makes it. It's just always the weather and Donald Trump. Did he say something that echoed fascist language? As though Donald Trump is out there like... What, reading histories of World War? Yeah, reading? Just like, do you mean to tell me that Donald Trump spent his time reading and then thought how he could artfully take like an illusion, and that's why he said they're poisoning the blood of our country? Yeah. Or was he just like, these people are a poison? Yeah. That feels like they're a poison in the blood.
How do you know what Hitler said? That you
how do I know?
Like off
because I watched the national news. Oh yeah, how does the national news know about it?
Like, hey, that sounds like something Hitler said. Like, how do you know what Hitler said so quickly?
They've got a historian there who has all the Hitler's speeches. Yeah,
it's all the boxes of stolen federal materials at Mar-a-Lago. It's just copies of Mein Kampf, just over and over and over again.
It's table talk.
That's why they're mad.
It's such a
man.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Backwards. It's actually
it's Stairway to Heaven. man, the news is so. I'm sure you all know this, but like, it's just very frustrating. It's in my own country, I struggle to see as much the facade and the consensus manufacturing, and I'm just like, yeah, interest rates should come down. What's going on with this receipt? Like, I'm in it, and then you come here and you go, like, but this matches not at all what's happening on the ground. Like, it doesn't seem like America's that close to a race war, and yet you wouldn't know. I didn't know it before coming in.
Yeah. A friend said that at men's group the other day. We were talking about how prosperity breeds harmony and like want breeds conflict. And someone was like, yeah, we're prosperous right now, but we're totally peaceful. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's right. He's like, this country's more divided than it's ever been. I was like, I actually don't know if that's true because we had a civil war.
I was going to say,
someone has definitely made that point. But like, that's not like an original point, but it is something that people seem to forget. Is like, I don't know. I think it's just people are online and they're on Twitter and they're mad, but no one's like.
Okay, here was an insane thing in the Biden speech. If I can complain briefly,
please,
because I will say you had 2 civil wars. You had the Civil War.
You have 3 years. You're allowed to comment on American politics because you're on your 3-year visa. So, yeah.
Before I'm removed. I mean, your first Civil War was against your righteous and benevolent king, who you removed, and I think it's wrong to call that anyway. So that's
some people say that America is not a real nation recognized by God because we overthrew a monarch that had right rule over our country.
I think there's a good argument to be made that a different line of that royal family is still the true monarch. Only the Jacobite line that you have to go through, I think comes through Princess Diana, so that Prince William technically reinstates it. Anyway, this is not what I meant to say. It's this weird thing about violence and division, because like Joe Biden starts his speech with how beautiful this war was that was fought to have freedom and democracy. And then the whole speech is about political violence is never justified. The whole start of the speech was about how beautiful that act of political violence was to have democracy. Like, you don't have democracy without. Democracy is nothing but the aftershock of political violence, right? Like Benjamin Franklin or someone wanted a violent revolution every 10 years just to keep it all going. And you're not bad. You're all having a great time.
Snowpiercer?
I never made it through the show. I watched the movie and was disgusted.
Yeah, the movie's disgusting, but that's the punchline at the end of the movie. Is they're like, the revolts are are scheduled just like the train. Like the point is that it's kind of like a nihilistic theism sort of thing.
Except that the train crashes at the end of the movie. So what's the point of scheduling it if your train's just going to derail? Stupid conductor.
No, that was the human spirit breaking out of the train is a metaphor because it runs on time, right? It's like everything is down to the last. Everything is timed. Even the food, even the people being born, even the people being murdered by the other people. It's all planned.
This guy watched a video essay on YouTube.
No, I'm thinking about this. This is off the dome.
No, look, I actually agree, because I remember. I mean, you're both, when you have a child and you're working and they're asking you, when are you taking the time off? You have to go, unless you have a planned cesarean, you have to go, listen, it'll happen when it happens. It's going to be some point in the next 2.5 weeks. I can't answer that. And the disapproval of everyone in the organization who can't really plan around it. Same with death. I remember I had a friend who was dying of cancer for what seemed like the longest time, but actually was probably only like 18 months towards the end of the bad cancer. And I met up with another friend who didn't particularly like this woman who was dying. And she was like, is she still alive? How long is she going to be dying for? It's like, yes, we get in the way of time. It's this corporatist, horrible, repressive thing where they want to regulate everything. Yeah, it's God's own time, baby. I'm all about it. Now I'm living in Steubenville. I'm showing up where I want, when I want.
There you go. Is there anything that's been good and positive about your time in America? Because we've really hit home on the stuff that you don't like.
I love this country so much. I love this country. I mean, it feels like...
Come on. We need this. Bring it on.
There is like a class of people in Australia and New Zealand and England, like throughout Europe, like a bureaucratic, managerial apparatchik class who belong to the government, but also government regulatory bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not there. Like, it's gone. This whole, like, you have laws that are just not enforced because there'll be like an insufficient police presence in certain places, or you vote for the guy who's enforcing the laws, and so he just goes, "Yeah, you want to smoke inside? I'm not going to make a big stink about that." Like, the level of the sense that Big Brother is not watching you here is through the roof, and that's so nice. It feels so liberating.
I do remember that during the COVID that they would have police come to people's houses in Australia saying, "You posted a video of being at this outdoor event and you weren't supposed to leave your house, and now you're under arrest." It's like that's crazy that happened there.
Concentration camps. We literally had camps where we concentrated people to keep them away. Like, I don't know what you call
years
that.
ago.
In the Northern Territory, and they were like, if this disease gets into remote Indigenous communities, the reasons make a lot of sense. As for any setting up of concentration camps, if you have enough of the backstory, it probably seems like a good idea. But in hindsight, it does seem weird that in the Northern Territory, if you had the disease and like they didn't believe that you would stay at home, they would just put you in like a huge camp that was set up that you were forbidden from walking out of. It's and the extent to which America did not care about COVID. Obviously, many parts of the country were obsessed with it. But, like, vaccine uptake was so low, booster uptake was so low, just because you let people, that level of freedom, you can't buy that. Do you know how violent a revolution you have that level of democratic freedom? It's huge.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. It's funny because the attitude from America looking out is very much the opposite. The kind of narrative that we hear in the dominant narrative, which is this like media produced, vaguely left wing, left of center narrative, is that, Ethan, have you seen that video of the guy from Dumb and Dumber talking about freedom?
The guy from James Carrey?
No. The other guy. The guy who looks like
Wilson.
Uncle Joey from Full House.
Oh.
No, sorry. Yeah, Uncle Joey. The guy who looks like Joey.
Dave Coulier.
Yeah, the guy who looks like Dave Coulier but is not Dave Coulier.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I know the actor, but I forget his name. Whatever. I haven't
seen
this.
So they do this thing. It's like a speech, and it was a video that went viral like about a decade ago or whatever. It's from a movie, and like.
Oh, is he like speaking to like a gymnasium? And he's like up on a podium.
and he's like he's reprimanding a girl for talking about how America is free, and he's like, England is free, France is free, Belgium is free, as if like Belgium being free is like the signatory that the entire world has embraced liberalism. But his point is like American liberalism has so pervaded the entire world that it is no longer unique. It is no longer special. There is no uniqueness to American liberalism, and I just think that that's just obviously not true.
Yeah,
like the way that Europe approaches liberalism is so different than America, because America was like a blank slate. There was no culture. You know, it was like
hello,
for better or for worse. Yeah.
Take that to the Iroquois. We don't need your culture.
In fairness, we did kill all.
We had culture. It just consisted of ritually sacrificing people, and so we just dispense with that.
The Iroquois
there were some very beautiful tobacco enemas.
All right,
there were a few, here and there. Here's Isaac Jogues.
That's what I was saying.
What's it? In 1984, there's that line like, "If there is hope, it's in the proles," and that is very much true here. I think like the proletariat. There's a lot of poor America. I'm seeing now in Appalachia. Some of the more poor parts of America.
I'm so glad you're starting with Appalachia.
I know.
Well, it's the free Appalachia. I'm in Appalachia. The freedom is there. Like if you're in New York, it does feel like much more free. New York's actually a bad example because it has a weird up yours culture. But like California didn't feel especially
San Francisco and
free. But there is like it feels quite European. But there is where poor people are just going about their lives, free from being helped by the government excessively. It is such a, not that I wouldn't mind a big lump of cash from the government any time, but it's like, there is it's it feels ungovernable. It feels too big. Like the network of highways compared to how much money you have left over after funding foreign wars. It's just not enough to get as many cops on there, scanning people's number plates as you would like. Whereas like in Australia, where you don't really have, I don't want to talk down our military. We've got a great military, but we're not spending as much on it as you are.
Famously
that money just goes to police. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever tried to fight an emu, mate. It's not easy to do.
You mentioned how they tried to get emu meat to be the replacement for cow, and you mentioned how they never quite got that off the ground. I thought that was a missed opportunity for a little punt because it is a flightless bird.
There's a Simpsons reference. Oh, that's very good. Very good. Very meta.
Thank you.
There's well, do you remember that bit in The Simpsons where Homer like loses his job and Marge says, "Don't worry, honey, you could start an emu farm." Or he says like, maybe I could raise emus. She's like, yeah, just to encourage him. And then he gets a job and he's like, emu farm? Marge, are you insane? But it would have been nice if we'd managed to export one thing that wasn't AC/DC. And we have so few good exports as a country, culturally.
Yeah.
You get our iron ore, but that's about it.
Well, now you're forming the entire world's children through the good people in Brisbane.
What are they doing? What do they do? Wait, what?
Bluey is set in Brisbane.
Yes. You do have that show here. And I'm told that Americans are speaking, like little young Americans are starting to speak like Brisbaneites.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, yeah. They're saying dunny. They're referring to the toilet as a dunny.
All the good parts of the language they can't include in Bluey. All the good slurs, You're not taking any of our hip, fun slurs that I won't say on the pod.
A bad thing about America is for all of our freedom, you still can't say most words without getting in trouble.
That
true. Is something I would trade speeding on the highway for being able to casually use swear words all the time.
Have you ever talked to an Irishman?
Not on purpose.
Like from Ireland.
The swearing is a beautiful part of the language. Yeah.
I hung out with one of my very good friends, was a triple citizen. She was a citizen of Ireland, the U.S., and Chile. Mariel. Shout out Mariel.
Sure.
One of our mods.
All the obvious ones that would go together.
Right.
Yeah. Her mom was from Ireland and her dad was from Chile. They met in America. They naturalized and they had her. And so she was a triple citizen. And so she's now a UK permanent expat, I guess. And I met her husband, Kieran, who is from Ireland, and he was like holding back, but still like dropped a couple of C words. And I was like, yeah, you can't. That's not cool.
Can't do that.
The C one is a big one here, but I will say, I think something is going the other way. Like there's, and also like we have taken on all the words you can't, like that in America had a cultural revolution. And, in whatever 2012, and whatever the woke thing was, and a lot of words started disappearing.
Obama was elected in 2008, so you can
I think
that'll be the starting point.
Okay, but I go back and I watch the first Pitch Perfect movie. It's hard to pick the exact time, but if you watch Pitch Perfect, there's hold on, when is the first Pitch Perfect? Yeah, it is 2012. It was still there. So that must have been made during 2011 to come out 2012. There's a joke about there's the DJ club, and it's the deaf Jews. Which is such an inoffensive joke, but it's like, oh, you're not making that joke 2014.
No.
Like, that's getting scrapped out the writer's room, but it's in there, and it's super fun. So I think it has to be after 2012.
Okay,
but, like, you've got gay coming back, and I just did a week of comedy in Austin. You can't move for people saying it's a sea of people with no consequences bringing back the word to the extent that it's lost all power and meaning.
My priest said it the other day.
My priest, I won't go. Sorry, I love my priest very much.
Probably shouldn't say
I believe I have heard my priest say words that he otherwise wouldn't have said.
Oh, priests have a filthy mouth sometimes, and not in the ways you'd expect.
They're just a house full of men. They don't have. I mean, come on.
Right.
It's brown out.
What else do you do but swear all day?
Oh, I miss my priest. If anyone is near Adelaide, go to I recommend the Holy Name. They'll hate me saying this. The Holy Name FSSP Latin Mass. they're both priests. They're a fabulous man, and I miss them so much. I had a phone call with my priest last night. I was in the dive bar. I was at the Hi Hat in downtown Steubenville on the phone with my priest talking. He was like, I just miss. Boy, like when you have a good priest is very hard to find and a very sad thing to lose. But sorry, I'm so sad thinking about it.
Yeah.
If any of our 12 listeners in Australia live
yeah,
near
did you just look it
Adelaide-
up? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I had it.
We
up
didn't
when
really.
were
We never got the Catamaran plan spot, so we never got the commensurate boost in the other direction.
If you want to keep going or do another night where I can quickly record my Catamaran, you'd save me the time. Frankly, if I could have you on the Catamaran plan, I could just
whatever
take
you
this
need,
and,
man.
I'll do a
What is
simultaneous
your
upload if you
process
want.
for recording the Catacast? Sorry, the Catamaran cast, not Catechism cast.
Well, the Catechism cast is we just show up and argue. And
We
the
were on
Catamaran
that
plan,
show, Patrick.
I know. So
I know.
You've seen how,
I meant
you've seen
the
how that
Catamaran
sausage is
plan.
made. Catamaran plan, the James Donald Forbes Mccann Catamaran plan, out now, all digital platforms. One man's journey to buy a boat. I have a couple of drinks and I sit alone and I talk for like an hour and a half, and then I cut it down. I also I re-record a lot. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to hold up.
You got to get one of these. I know. I call him
who
Old
is he?
Stormy.
Who is he?
Yeah.
From
I got him as a
Tintin?
gift, as a parting gift from when I left being a campus missionary. My students got it for me. They pitched in because I saw him he was in a grandfather clock store, and I saw him. I said, "Oh, I love him," but I was saving up for a wedding, and so I said, "Alas, I cannot purchase him." And then they surprised me. They went back and they bought him for me.
No, the key,
I had a
the
friend
key
do that
thing
with
for
a
me is,
Ming vase.
You throw in music and vibes.
Yeah.
You'll have
He writes the music.
Well,
You have the
I try and
music
find
playing and you're
copyright-free classical music and
You're
warp
you're
it so
playing
it's
the
not a copyright
classical
problem.
music and you're talking, and then all of a sudden the music cuts, and you go, "Oh, got a text," and then it's
No.
funny.
So-
I don't understand.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's my great blessing. I think that's my secret talent is podcast audio editing on GarageBand.
Yeah.
It's I record
The echo.
the vocal. I do all the vocal, and then every time I get bored listening to it back, I do something weird. Basically,
That's great.
is the trick.
no, that's perfect. I do think that's it's.
But I want it to be. I want it to be like the Goon Show. I don't know if you've ever heard the Goon Show, but it was
No.
it was like the proto Monty Python. It was the people who inspired Monty Python people, and it's a radio broadcast, and it's like a radio play, but they'll just be, great fun with sound effects and music and scripts. It's and also it's it's so piss easy to just open GarageBand and put something, and I listen to myself back and I go, what? It's just me saying words? No one could possibly be asked to listen to that. This is a cruel thing to inflict on someone. So I spend, most of it is I spend a couple of hours doing the audio. Yeah. I need new. If you have ideas for new out of copyright background music, I would welcome it. I'm currently going through Wikipedia just to go through what is on and usable on Wikipedia. It's
There is, if you're a shameless person, there is AI generated music now. You can do that. Yeah,
I don't want that.
exists.
I resent the AI. What I love at the moment is I thought this would be a good video to do at some point, but I don't know. Maybe, okay. I don't want to do it by myself. I'd like to riff with someone about it. Defunct national anthems, to rank defunct national anthems. These are because no one is claiming the copyright for a MIDI version of. The first one I heard was God Save the Tsar, which was on a BBC series of War and Peace. I don't know if you've ever heard God Save the Tsar.
No.
It's so disgusting that they had a revolution that meant getting rid of that song. It's one of the best. It's really bangs. God Save the Tsar.
Even the Soviet Union national anthem is phenomenal.
It's pretty good.
It's great. It hits.
Oh man, when
I
you
tried
watch,
to make a.
you watch
I
that
tried to
the
make
closing
a,
address. When
Trying to make a Gabber
yeah.
remix of it. It
Nice.
didn't work out.
Apologize. Have you seen what they would play on Soviet television when they turned off the TV at the end of the night? Like when TV used to end at 11, they would play that song and have just clips from the Soviet Union of burly men.
It's the
shoveling
proto Instagram edits. It's before there was MGMT and
Little Dark
Joan of
Age,
Arc pictures. They had the Soviet Union
Soviet
clips on TV.
broadcasting station.
You'd have very little work to do if you just lifted the Soviet broadcast and put MGMT behind it, people would think you'd done a cool clip.
Patrick, I think we have to convert our Instagram account to something else. I think I need to start.
I
need to start Soviet posting immediately, and I also need to block my mom on Instagram so that she doesn't see me Soviet posting.
Beautiful people. Can I also talk about? Look, I would like to talk. What I'm good at in Adelaide and in Australia is taking a very small base of followers and putting on live shows that they come to. If I can help get the Crunch live tour off the ground, it would be such a joy. Like I know how to do it. It's going to be different in America. I'll come tour with you, honestly. Or we'll tour at different times. It would be a joy.
James,
we'll do something.
That would honestly be perfect because like we're not a solo, like it needs to be an event. It needs to be a bunch of heads on a poster because it's not people are
we need to look like the Dune poster, but better. Can we make an imitation and James will be the worm and Patrick will be Zendaya and I can be Princess Irulan and it will be wonderful.
I watched the movie on my phone illegally.
Yeah.
That was maybe not the best way to watch the cinematic rendition of Dune, but I was disappointed that it was more big things moving than it was like very convoluted discussions about genealogies. I loved the book. The book Dune is sick.
Book was great.
Yeah, book is good. It's hard to do all of that because so much of in the book is people's internal monologues, and so it's so difficult. They tried to do that in the '84 version, but it ended up being very, very odd.
Well, it's like I don't know if you've read Anna Karenina.
I have. I love that book.
I think Dune is stylistically much closer to Anna Karenina than most science fiction because it's all you go after someone and you're really like in their mental universe, and he's really good at conveying the internal tone of that. But how do you cinematically depict? I mean, is there a good Anna Karenina movie either, where you really get what it's like to yearn to be alone on a farm?
You ever yearn, Jerry?
Do you ever yearn? Do you ever to know what it's like to scythe with the workers out in the hot sun?
And then you think about God, but you're not really ready to commit to any major religion until love transforms
because you're so preoccupied with the logistics of the Russian farming system.
Yeah, for 14 pages. Have you ever read one of my favorite novels is Portrait of a Lady, which is I think the hardest one to dramatize. So she's like she gets into some trouble. She's dating I think she shacks up with a guy. Things are not going well. And then the most incredible part, like the electric part of the book is about 30 pages where she's sitting on a chair and just like thinking out the ethical ramifications of the decisions she could make. And I can't think how you would film that unless it was you just get Reese Witherspoon on a chair for 30 minutes looking somber. Impossible.
It's kind of like Brideshead Revisited, if you've read that. That too is similar in that like nothing really happens for most of the book, and then the guy has a conversion at the very end, and that's it.
It's my friend Jack's, I would say, the book that he most goes on and on and on and on and on about. But he has this theory that every character becomes a saint. I don't know if it's a common theory, but like everybody in that story is sanctified, and it reads on a top level as a sort of a weird tragedy where everyone's life just fizzles out and goes a different way, but like everyone might have a serious chance at going to heaven at the end of that book. So I've got to reread it with that in mind. But
that's interesting. No, I should too. That's a good idea. Well, yes, we need to end the show because you got to go, but we need to figure out when we can be. We'll talk after we end the recording.
All right,
when we can be on the Catamaran plane, and then I will absolutely, without a doubt, we'll talk to you about figuring out a live show because that's to have. Here's the problem: is that no one's ever told us.
Be a good place to start.
No one's ever told us that we're good enough. You know, so to have someone say you're good enough to do a live show.
Can you swear on? Do you swear on this podcast?
You do.
I kept myself back. Well, all right. Well, I won't say it. I was going to tell you to.
No, we'll bleep you out. We'll bleep you out.
Say it. It's at the end. No one listens to the end.
In kind decency, I was going to tell you where you could go. Look. I think you do. The standard for a live podcast show is so incredibly low.
I have seen some of my brother and me live shows that are really, really bad. So
I don't know what that is, and I don't want to disrespect them. You're going to be fine. You're going to be absolutely. And you know what? You do questions with the audience, and that's always fun. That's 25 minutes taken care of. You need to be there for an hour. People have things they'll want to ask you. That's the back 25 taken care of. You get something. You get a song in the middle. You do a little TikTok dance.
Patrick, we learn a song. Oh my gosh, we have a road show. You and me. We get to do puppets. What do you think?
We do the Crunch Puppets. It's the podcast, but it's just you and me behind a desk with instead of us talking.
Well, you could send someone else to do that, frankly, with a recording.
That's true.
I mean, let's not.
My parents would always tell me about a prop comic that they went to see when they were engaged. And they always would tell us this. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I used to think it was the funniest thing, and I still do. But this prop comic would have this big suitcase, and he just pulled out this giant G, and he just went, and then he put it back in his suitcase. And I've always thought that is one of the funniest jokes. I think we could do something like that, Patrick.
It's just steal a different letter of the alphabet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did your parents see Joel from
probably not the K
from MST3K
or the X
or the X? Yeah,
yes,
both,
but mostly not the K. Joel
mostly
from what?
Not the K.
What was Joel? Who was Joel?
What's Joel? MST3K. Joe. It's Joel something. Teresa Bova's gonna be mad at me right now.
I don't know about this.
I forget his name.
Joe
anyway,
MST3K. Demon Squad.
No. I don't know what we're referencing. I do have an idea, James, for a bit that you can use. We can end on this. You tell me if this is good or not. You maybe have already done this.
All right.
I was on a walk today.
No, I've never done a bit about you being on a walk.
Context. This is not a fully formed thought.
All right.
There's someone had a no trespassing sign in the yard, and I thought it was a pretty pointless sign because it implies that there's maybe a yes trespassing sign out there somewhere where people are delighted to have people illegally come onto their property. So
I do like
the fact that there's a no trespassing sign wouldn't seem to deter very many people.
I would like
there's got to be something
story.
there.
I immediately think of an idea for a short story where there's a man who has cultivated such a perfect lawn that the children in the neighborhood will not play on it out of respect. And he's heartbroken because all he's done is create this lawn so the children will play on it. And so he makes a please walk on the lawn sign.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
That's all I have.
That's good.
Feels Russian. Yeah. Hey, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Right?
Yeah, thank you. This has been very good. Well, everybody, if you don't follow James, he's what's your Instagram, JDFM?
Yes, I'm at jdfmccann@gmail.com, and the James Donald Forbes Mccann Catamaran plan. It's out now. If you would put a link to it, that would be so super duper.
We can do that.
I have to quickly turn it into a way of making enough money to provide for my family, so that in excess of that I can have a boat. Because I took the money from the Catamaran plan to take me to America, and now I don't have a job, and I don't have many prospects. So, really nice to be back on the Crunch. I will literally come back anytime you'll tolerate it, and please come on my podcast, and let's talk about, let's pause this, we'll stop this. We'll talk about this live show. We'll talk about the live show.
All right, everybody.
Patrick, do you have anything else for the people?
bit.ly/crunch discord.
Join our Discord.
You got one new member, apparently.
Yeah, thank you all for listening.
In our Discord, you have we dropped our PO boxes. The first person to send Ethan kangaroo testicles will win $100. Thanks.
I would rather have Adelaide Crow's merch. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.